is that people are answering a slightly different question than the one that's being asked. And so we can't give you full credit for that. Even if your ACEs is perfect and all your writing is perfect, you have to answer the question that's being asked. So one great way to do that is by restating the question in your answer. So for example, if the question is, what is your favorite color? How would you answer that by restating the question in your answer? Mark, can you say first one, my favorite color is? Exactly, that's exactly right. So say I had just written as my answer, yellow. You would have no idea what that meant if you didn't know the question. It could be like, what is the color of a school bus? What is a word that starts with Y? So when you're answering your question, you should make it so that someone who doesn't know the question knows what you're talking about. So why don't you go ahead and work on the first 3 questions on your packet. It's really basic. I just want everybody to practice restating your question and your answer. Today we're just going to be doing 5 of these skills and really drilling them into our heads so that we will not forget when we're doing our exit tickets. What's your question? Yeah, just the first 30. This should only take about 1 minute. This whole side of the room with their questions down. Jesse, do you need a pencil?
Yeah, I have one.
Oh, here, use this one. I just want to say that you guys are such a great class because you can have so much fun, and then when it's time to work, it's just like silent and everybody's on task, so that's awesome. You guys are well on your way to get all your class points. Not quite because it's only been about halfway, but
We have to read 4 minutes. But we pretty much halfway there already. You get like 2 points to go.
okay, so I'm going to draw these popsicle sticks, and if I draw your name, just read your answer to what is your dream vacation? Actually, all of you. Are there like 5 of your names?
Yeah, they're like 20.
It's actually all of them.
Devon, what is your dream vacation?
My dream vacation is New York and Miami.
Awesome. Great restated question. How would you characterize Martina from Attention Shoppers, Erica? Great. Perfect. And what is the theme of where would you draw the line? Gisela.
Well, the theme is like, the theme of the story is to be
okay, it doesn't actually matter what the theme is. The important thing is you restated the question. One thing, what is one thing just could have added? Just to the restated question. Yeah, can you tell? Exactly. So just to completely restate the question, you could have said the theme of where would you draw the line is. But that was great. If you had the theme of this story, that would work too. Great. So that's the first one. Check. The second quick fix is to take a stand when you're writing your essays or answering your questions. And by that, I mean write with confidence. So we don't want to see a lot of, I think the answer is this, maybe, perhaps. When you are writing your answer in English classes or an English test, there's really no wrong answer so long as you back it up with evidence from the text. Yes?
As soon as you said you write your answer in English, I was gonna say, why wouldn't we write our answer?
Right, I know. I meant English class or ELA class. So this can be a tricky thing to do if you don't feel 100% sure that your answer is correct, which a lot of us are kind of unsure when we're writing. But that's the thing, is there can be no wrong answer when you are backing up your evidence from the text. There's never going to be, this is the one sentence that we're looking for. We're just looking for having an answer to the question that's given and evidence from the text that supports your answer. So in that, just say what you're thinking and don't be kind of wishy-washy about it. So what we're going to do is look at Take a Stand, the paragraph on the bottom of the first page, and we're going to go through that paragraph and just cross out all the words that don't need to be there. And that's how we're just going to work on making our writing more concise. So take the next minute to do that, and then we'll talk about which words we could cross out. Yeah, if you want to add a word to make it flow better, that's fine too. When I draw your popsicle, just let us know one thing that you took out of the paragraph. Drew.
Nothing.
exactly. Vaughn, I'm gonna take yours out for a second.
No.
Okay.
In my opinion, I said out in.
Okay. Could you have taken out all of, in my opinion? You actually can just start with Martina's leadership. Because that still makes sense to say Martina's leadership in the grocery store. Yeah, exactly. So it is your opinion. That's assumed. You don't have to say it. Who else has something? Jesse. Did you take anything else out?
Yeah. Like, on the very bottom.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we would talk, but it's different when we're writing.
Sparkles that there's like nuts. Yes.
Anything else? Oh, Jared's not here. Anything else, Gisela? You had the same thing? Raise your hands if you took out anything else. Erica, what else did you take out? Probably, perfect. Mark?
I take out writer, because it probably incites others to follow your lead. So I think you could finish with name of attention shall versus a stand up for what's right.
Yeah, you definitely could have. You can keep this incites others to follow your lead, because it's just adding content, but definitely take out probably. Did anyone take out anything else? Drew? Great, yeah, I put that in because I thought it was funny, but sometimes things like that come out when you're writing. Bryce?
Basically, Martina basically starts to write.
Awesome. Jesse?
In my opinion.
Yeah, exactly, that was already taken. Mark?
Most likely.
Perfect, yeah. Great. Did anybody get anything else to take out? Jesse?
At the end of the sentence where she says, is always appropriate, most likely.
Yeah, so the most likely is taken out. Anything else, Mark?
I have two of the same word. I have that here.
Oh, when you take out that? Yeah, that is kind of just a preference. You can take it out. Sometimes it just makes things longer. Yeah, so great. You guys are awesome. Mark, have you done this before in school? Yeah, you're on fire. Great, so the next thing we're going to talk about is using the best possible evidence when you're citing something. So another thing we've seen when looking at exit tickets is you'll have a citation, which is great, but it's not necessarily the best one you could pick. And that's not to say that there's one line you should be picking to answer a question, but some just work better in context than others. So flip open your packet to the second page. And we can just do this one as a class. So if this is your question, which of A, B, C, or D would you pick as your evidence line, or your citation line for ACEs? So the store director, Bob G. Smith, can be characterized as aggressive and severe. So take a look at each of these four answers and pick which ones are appropriate as your citation and which ones don't work as well for your citation. And there can be more than one correct answer.
Can you circle it?
Yeah, go ahead and circle it. You can take about 1 minute to look at these. But you also don't necessarily need the story, just looking at the question. So it's about Bob G. Smith and whether he's aggressive and severe. So which of A, B, C, and D would support Bob G. Smith being aggressive and severe, and which ones are not too closely tied to that?
There's two answers and one.
There are actually 2 correct answers and 2 wrong answers. Good. Did you have a question? See if you guys can find any other ones that would work as correct answers too. See if they, why don't you see if any of these other ones would work for evidence too. Okay, so one thing I wanted to clarify before we go over this answer is when you do a citation for ACEs, it does not need to be a direct quote from the text. It's awesome if it is, and I think that's a common thing that people use are direct quotes, which is awesome. But you can also use details and description from the text that you don't directly quote. So, for example, if there's a situation that you're using for your evidence, something that really supports your answer, just describe the situation in your own words. Still say in what paragraph it happened so that the reader can go look for the paragraph and read exactly what happens. But you don't need to have a quote. You can just describe it in your own words. So on that note, raise your hand and let me know which answers you thought were right. Just laugh. A, yeah, A is exactly right. And can you just explain why A makes sense for the question?
Because he's being mean with Martina, like he's not being good.
Exactly. Yeah, so the description matches what's characterized in the question. Right. D?
Yeah,
Okay, and why do you think D is a good answer?
because aggressive is being angry, overweight is being severely, just not,
Yeah, I would actually say D would not be the best answer because being overweight has nothing to do with being aggressive and severe.
So what about B?
B?
Yeah.
Who else thinks B?
Sure, I guess.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So, Mark, can you explain why B is also a good answer?
Well, it shows him being aggressive and severe.
Yeah, exactly. So what Mark said is right. It shows rather than tells that the store director is aggressive and severe. So that's one example where you wouldn't need to cite the whole paragraph. You would just say, in this paragraph, he is exactly what he's doing. Yeah, do you have a question?
But I picked B and D because like A to me doesn't make sense. It says in paragraph 14, the store manager is described as angry and pushing his finger into Martina's chest.
Okay.
Angry is not like a trait. You can't describe him by what he did. I mean, you can, like, I think I just worded that wrong, but, you know what I mean? Like, he's described as angry, so that's a trait of him. But him pushing his finger into her chest is not a trait.
Oh, okay. No, I see what you're saying. So angry is like a describing word and pushing his finger into his chest is not a describing.
That's why I'm
Yeah, exactly. That pushing his finger into Martina's chest is quoted, so that's how he's described. You don't need just a describing word. you can describe its action too. So you can say the store manager is described as pushing Martina. And in this case, the store manager is described as pushing his finger into Martina's chest. So that's directly quoted, and I can see how you could think like the agreement between angry and pushing are different because one's an adjective and one's a verb, but you can actually put them together like that. But good question. And Eileen, why is C not the best answer for the question?
Because you're asking what would characterize the store director, and C is like telling what Martina did.
Exactly. So Martina is not the subject of this question, so we don't even need to talk about her. So even though it's formatted perfectly, it has a paragraph number, the direct quote, we just don't need to look at things that do not very specifically help us answer our question. So awesome. Great. Okay, so the next section is citing paragraphs. And this has been very tricky. I think a lot of people were taught in middle school to put paragraphs in parentheses. Is that no? No?
I was.
Okay. Yeah, so when you're quoting something, so say you have your, oh, this is,
Use the blue marker. Sorry, here.
it's okay, I can just use this one. So say you have your quote, and then your period, and then your end quote. That's when you could write like paragraph 1. Actually, sorry. So like that. That's an option, but really you do not have to do it that way, especially in this kind of writing, since you're only using one text. We're not really having you guys compare text too much. So what I think is a way that is really easy to do and makes sense is just to write out in paragraph 1, and then the narrator, Martina, so like Martina says.
I mean, like, if you have paragraph 136, you want to write that all out.
Exactly. Yes, Mark.
In the 5th grade,
Yeah.
when I remember we would actually try to cite, I guess. Like when we would, we'd write like one sentence down. And then after, she would want us to put it in parentheses.
Yeah.
Like just like the line or whatever. But as like went on, you know, I think like 7th and 8th, they actually told us not to put in parentheses. Like just like in paragraph 1, like in number form.
Yeah.
But without parentheses.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so both of those ways are totally correct. I would say that this way with the parentheses, that's more for kind of research. So maybe you were doing like science or whatever. You can absolutely use this in English too. They're both correct. I would say this one just makes a little more sense in the context that we're using. But just to clarify, these are the two, for all intents and purposes for this class, these are the two that are correct. We've been seeing like some confusion with parentheses, like if you're writing it this way, like this, but you only actually need the parentheses if you're going to cite it in that way. Whereas if you're using your citation like this in your sentence, you don't need to put it in parentheses. It just completely makes sense as a part of your sentence. You only use parentheses when it's actually not a part of your sentence in the end. Mark.
But like in the 5th grade, we didn't do it like this, you know? Like where we put parentheses like in the front, like how we recited it. We put like, our sentences would be like a quote, and at the end we put a parenthesis, you know?
Yeah,
Because in this
like this
sentence, yeah, like that.
Yeah, so if that's the way that you're most comfortable doing it, that's absolutely fine. Just make sure that you have the formatting correctly. So that would be like no punctuation at the end of your quote, punctuation within the parentheses here. So it's just really important that you have the formatting correctly. I just think this one's easier to format, but if you want to use that one, that's fine. There's just like some confusion on where the parentheses go. That's why I kind of figured we could just get rid of them and write it out in our sentence, because that's absolutely fine. And the next thing I wanted to talk about really quickly is when you're writing numbers in academic writing, if the number is between 1 to 100, you always spell it out. You don't just write the number. If it's over 100, I don't know why you would be writing it unless maybe there are over 100 paragraphs, like I guess the last story actually did have that, then you don't have to. You can just write the numbers. But, so every other time in academic writing, you have to write out the number. Another exception is if it's in this kind of way, then you don't have to write the number. So just one way to remember that we're always going to write our numbers is I have a random number generator on my computer, and I want everybody to just write a number on the bottom of their sheet, just write it out, and then we'll see if your number gets called, and if it does, we have little Hawaiian candy that we give you.
Is there
Question. Oh, I'm sorry.
between numbers? Between
Oh, yeah.
1 and 100 or something?
Oh, yeah, sorry. So write a number between and including 1 and 100. And so I thought maybe this would be a little confusing because sometimes writing numbers is confusing because we just don't do it very often. So I just wrote out all the numbers right here if you want to take a look. So we always just write this, and then we do a hyphen, and then we write the second part after. So like some of these spelling wise can be confusing, like on 40, there's no U in the 4. Yeah, I can just leave this here if you want to look at it. Okay, so everybody write a number down, and then we'll randomly generate them until it comes up with someone's number. Oh, it's coming. Okay. Okay, just raise your hand if you have your number written down.
Me.
Okay. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay, get number. 89. Did anyone have that written down? Okay, let's go again. 97.
Dog point bingo.
Yeah.
I know, it does feel like that.
56.
I really have been wondering how long it would take to get your number.
Oh, 6 away.
85.
I know, 6 away too. Yeah, 50.
Okay, why doesn't everybody write a second number? So now if you get either of your first two numbers, I'm going to come around and just make sure everybody has the spelling right for their numbers.
Oh,
Right.
Oh, no. Like, probably.
Nice.
What did I do?